All right, welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Parkside Cabin Rentals. If you're like me, you need a break from staring at the same four walls. And I know, Josh, Mr. Quarantine, I'm betting you need to go up, rent a cabin through Parkside Cabin Rentals. If you're looking for a place to stay in the Smokies, boy, they are fantastic. Get your own mountain cabin, a do-it-yourself deal. Hot tubs, pool tables, fireplaces, grills, they got it all. Check the layout of the cabin you're looking for at parksidecabinrentals.com. The Ogle family's been doing this since the national park first opened. That's how long they've been in the hospitality business in Sevier County. Parkside Cabin Rentals. All right, Josh Heupel is going to be a test case for me. I'm putting them all my chips into the center of the table on Josh Heupel. I believe that if he can get to 7 or 8 wins, which, all right, get past the sanctions, whatever they're going to be. But if he can get to 7 or 8 wins, I think he'll recruit just fine here. You know, there are people that are worried about, well, you're going to have SEC ties and you're going to don't want to have a MAC staff like Butch had and all this stuff. I don't buy it. So I went back. I wanted to test my theory. So what I've done is I used 247.com's national recruiting rankings. I wanted to see how Tennessee has recruited since the Phillip Fulmer era ended. I took out, because it's really not fair to leave the coaching change years in there, I took those 5 years out, those classes that got muddied and mixed up and two coaches working on it, took those out. That left 8 years. You've had 8 post-Fulmer years. And then just to give us a comparison, I went back to Phillip Fulmer's last 8 years to see how he did in the 24/7 rankings, to see, there was a tried and true continuity on your staff. They know what they're doing. They've been around here. Then you turn it over and you got the Derek Dooley staff. You got Butch, which everybody thought was a crummy staff. Pruitt, who was supposed to be the geniuses, who gave out money in McDonald's bags. So let's compare. And here's what I found. The average since Fulmer is a 12.25 standing in the national rankings. The average in Phillip Fulmer's last 8 years, 12.25. The identical. I fell out of my chair. Now, I had an idea what I would see. I didn't expect it to be identical. So 12.25 in both. Now, Phillip Fulmer had a lot of top 10 classes there. The problem is you still had 2 losing seasons in 4 years and didn't have any championships out of it. But anyway, my view is when you look at that, with Tennessee's recruiting budget, and they've got one of the biggest recruiting budgets in the country, they got facilities that are on par with anybody in the country. And while this state is improving, it's not great, but you're sitting in a 250-mile circle radius there of real talent. I think if Heupel just has a decent staff, they're going to be fine. I think recruiting-wise, you're probably going to be top 15 or their average top 12. Now, you guys cover recruiting more closely than I do. Jimmy, you as well. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me that I'm an idiot for this, for believing so firmly that you'll recruit fine, don't care who it is. Am I right or wrong?
No, I don't think you're wrong. I think it's close to impossible to recruit poorly at Tennessee because of all the resources, all the people that Josh Heupel was just able to hire for recruiting. Part of the issue, though, comes back to what the expectations will be, which can be a separate conversation, but recruiting's a part of it. And if you're expected to recruit at a championship level, meaning you get players that will come in and help you ultimately compete with Georgia, Alabama, Florida, LSU when you play them, Texas A&M when you play them, that level recruiting is not going to get it done, which has been shown by the previous coaches.
Yeah, and I think he's going to do fine. And another reason I think he's going to do pretty well, I think, is that, look, this state is a lot better in recruiting than it was 10, 15 years ago. The population, the mid-state. And so I think that instead of getting, 2 of the top 15 players in the state, I think if you can get 8 or 10 of the top 15 in the state, that's going to boost it as well. And I think there will be a greater focus from his staff on recruiting in state. I think he's going to do fine.
I actually completely agree with your.
I expected to be the crazy man today. Right?
No, I don't think that's crazy at all. And I kind of made this point during Tennessee's coaching search. I thought they just needed to focus on getting a coach that has a good reputation as an X's and O's coach. Get that part right. The rest will tend to take care of itself. You do need to be a good evaluator at Tennessee, I think, because there are some challenges. It's hard to recruit at the Georgia, Alabama level, obviously, in recent years. And you need to get somebody who can develop players. If you do those 2 things well, I agree. The recruiting takes care of itself. And, we'll see if Josh Heupel can duplicate what he did at UCF offensively. But if he can, I think there's a good chance you're going to see more top 15 classes, just like you saw on that list.
Well, and I think one positive that you can also throw in for Heupel, at least on the offensive side of the ball, you look at what he did at Missouri. They didn't have a lot of top 5 classes at Missouri. So when you look at his offense, at least in terms of quarterback, running back, and receiver, he may get more from a 3-star guy than your previous coaches have been able to get out of a 3-star guy simply by his offensive system. Now, the defense is going to be sort of worn out. You may counteract that with some of your defensive guys you sign. But offensively, it's going to be the first time we really look at a UT coach in a while and say, how much can he really coach them up? You know, again, Philip Fulmer had top 4, top 3 classes there and didn't turn into championships.
You mentioned Missouri. The year before Heupel got there, Missouri's offense wasn't any good.
Yeah, it was terrible.
The ranking was terrible, and when he got there, now he was dealing with a really good quarterback, but I give him some credit for bringing out the best in him.
Yeah, he developed Drew Lock.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think that's the best thing about Josh Heupel's resume in a way. If you're looking at it, he's got kind of a combination of Butch Jones's and Jeremy Pruitt's resume in this sense. Butch Jones had not been at a Power 5 school or a major program, had been at Cincinnati and Central Michigan, had to kind of find diamonds in the rough. But you also got the Jeremy Pruitt background in the sense that he's been at Oklahoma. So Josh Heupel knows how you have to recruit at this level and isn't just used to being at a smaller school. So he's got kind of the best of both worlds, and I think that helps at a place like Tennessee.
I love these segments where I deliver the proof and they can't argue. Actually, they weren't going to argue to begin with. Sounds like they agreed. That's good. When we come back, Ty Simpson and the rest of the in-state class. Is it a pipe dream to think that Josh Heupel can land any of these guys considering the sanctions and the turmoil and the turnover and the short clock, et cetera, et cetera? We'll discuss that next. Come on back on the Sports Wheel.